Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Marvel Runaways Season 3. So this came out in 2019, and it is the final season of Marvel Runaways. Heck, I've said this before. I think the Runaways is one of the best, Marvel television shows there is. A lot of people don't really feel that way because it did differ from the comics. The parents not being truly all that evil, which they really should have done to stick to the comics. But this show was actually pretty fluid. They had a showrunner, they had an amazing cast, they had stories that actually made sense. They tried to keep to the comics a little bit here and there, and it was like a pretty grounded show, grounded in terms of they actually knew what they wanted to do and they did it. It wasn't trying to set up for another television show or another movie similar to that of Disney Plus's MCU shows or the rest of their movies and stuff. Not to mention, the humor was actual real humor. It wasn't that Disney Marvel baby humor that they always throw in so awkwardly and everything. The humor actually makes sense. This was a show that was even a little bit gritty at times. People died and everything. It had stakes, which a lot of this Marvel Disney Plus crap does not have. Disney Marvel Plus shows are too fluffy, if you will. They try to be mysterious and hard, but hard in a soft way. And it never comes off as gritty as it needs to be. Take the Hawkeye show, right? I like that show. I do not love it, but I like it. And the only reason why I like it is Haley Steinfeld. But Haley Steinfeld did do a very, very, very good job as Kate Bishop. But from what I've read on Wikipedia, her personality doesn't seem to be exactly like Kate Bishop from the comics. Kate's more appears to be more grumpy, more gritty, and Haley Steinfeld just plays her like Haley Steinfeld always plays all her characters and stuff. A very charming person and a humorous person. I wanted more grit in everything, Not to mention, her mom was an actual villain and the mysterious villain, well, one of the mysterious villains of the show, along with the Kingpin. But the show inverted people's expectations because they assumed her stepfather was the villain. Because in the comics, his character is an actual villain. So the whole time watching, I'm thinking, okay, he's gonna be bad. He's gonna be bad. No, he was good the entire time, and people actually like him. That's not how his character is supposed to be. And that's really, and all that did was to set up the Black Widow movie, and then later on the Thunderbolts and everything, and later on the Young Avengers. Runaways don't do that, and I'm so happy. And one reason why it doesn't do that because it's not connected to the MCU. It is MCU adjacent, if you will. They throw in references to Marvel, Wakanda and stuff like that. The Incident being the first Avengers movie and stuff like that. And then there's Nico's mother, Tina, who is actually already in the MCU. Now, I made a little bit of mistake in my second season review when I said the same actress played Tina in Doctor Strange movie. No, it was a different actress. My bad. But the character of Tina is both in the MCU and in Marvel television. And they even have their own version of the Darkhold. But their book looks too pretty looking in this show. That's the one gripe I have. They even have their own coven of witches, completely different from the MCU. Their version of witches look more like supermodels. They still do hand gestures, but different from that of Marvel. Instead of the little swirly Doctor Strange stuff that goes around your wrist, they have their own version of that. And they have their own version of like the dark power from Doctor Strange, that like, the little purple like spots around your eyes and stuff. They got their own version very similar to them. So they are very adjacent to it. They even have their own time travel rules in like the in this show. Their time travel show rules is more like traditional time travel. None of that confusing multiverse like MCU stuff. The only problem with this show, other than didn't stick too much to like, the comics, and it was a bit too teen drama filled, is they didn't have a big enough budget. In those first two seasons, oh, if they would have had the MCU budget, boy, let me tell you. However, this season, the third season, their budget like increased and everything. At least for the first half of like the season, they started doing more things they normally don't do. The kids use their powers a bit more. There's more CGI. Old Lace looks amazing this season. Her animatronic puppet always looks good. But this time we actually get to see her stand up. We get to see her run. We get to see her walk. And whenever she would run or walk in the previous seasons, it looked like a computer generated thing. It looked like crap. This time they have the budget. But then it's crazy because, okay, this season is broken down into two storylines. First 5 episodes have to do with the whole Jonah family alien invasion and the body host thing. Then the second part of this season is Morgan Le Fay, the sorceress. And so they have to stop whatever nefarious thing she wants to do, right? But here's the thing. In the second half of this season, during the Morgan Fay storyline, that's when the budget seemed to have like disappeared. They don't use their CGI magic powers that much. The battle at the end wasn't that big of a battle. And the season finale was way too rushed. I mean, it was way too rushed. They were trying to set up for the possibility of another season until Disney put them, stopped them in their place and everything. I'll get to that a little bit later. So, like, the season finale should have been 2 episodes, but it wasn't. It was just 1. And they should have used the 5th episode, which was kind of filler to set up the second half of the season. They should have used that for a 2-part finale. And the 2-part finale could have been, it was good, don't get me wrong. It was good, it was shocking, but it was too confusing. There was a lot going on in that finale, and I'm just kind of like, huh, what? Like, it was cool, but it was like, I don't get it. Why did that happen? There's too much exposition, no flashbacks. It was a very rushed finale. Let's just say that, like a very rushed finale. And they gave us an Easter egg to a character I've never even heard of in Marvel Comics, but he was supposed to be a potential friend, ally, or villain in like the 4th season if they would have got it. And so, like, when it comes to this season, now I said before, after season 2, it gets better. Now, what did I mean by that exactly? Not that it gets better than the second season. In my opinion, the second season is by far, like the best. There was so much going on in the second season. They had more episodes, 13, and they broke the season down into 3 completely different story arcs. The first one was the whole Topher thing. The second one was trying to stop their parents and stopping Jonah. Then the third part was like something that was a little rushed. Like, okay, ooh, there's aliens going inside human host bodies. Who's who? You know what I'm saying? And so this third season picks up where the last season started off with the whole Jonah's family alien invasion thing. And that's probably the best part of this season. Like the first half of the third season, that whole Jonah family story arc, because it allowed some of the cast members to act completely different and they did an amazing job. I just wish there could have been a bigger battle because a lot of the CGI had to go into other special effects, so they really couldn't do like amazing big battle type thing. But the little special effects that they did use it on was like amazing, like the computer stuff, a little magic stuff, and stuff like that. But then the way they got defeated was like so rushed and so confusing going into the fifth episode. It's like, wait, are they gone? Or are they trapped in the dark dimension? Speaking of the dark dimension, this show has its own version of the dark dimension. We've seen the dark dimension before in the Cloak and Dagger series, the Freeform series, which Cloak and Dagger make a crossover into the Runaways. It's like the 8th episode. And it's like really cool. I've been reviewed that episode, so go watch that. That episode was good, but it could have been better. They didn't really use their money that much for like a special effects and budget for fight choreography and everything. That's one problem I'm having with this season. There's not that much action. The team does fight, but they don't really combine their powers a lot like they did in the last season. And one of the reasons why I think like where the budget went when it didn't go on special effects and all this other stuff in the second part of this season was to pay for I believe this. I don't got no like source material. I don't got no interview. I can't find no interviews, but I truly believe it was to pay this one actress salary. This one actress is very, very famous. And normally when you have somebody that famous who's done tons of movies and stuff, Austin Powers, Bedazzled, she was on the show, The Royals and everything, Elizabeth Hurley. I truly believe that budget went to her bank account and everything, because the second season, it really lacked a lot of CGI. And to be completely honest, the second part of this season is slightly lackluster. It's interesting and you wondering what's happening, but it feels very, very rushed. And like, because they were really trying to like, get through it, like, and all that stuff. But I do appreciate the fact that they gave us a completely different villain for the second half of this season, because I'm getting really tired of the whole Parents and Jonah thing. That was 2 whole seasons. I didn't need another season of that. But I understand they had to hurry up and like finish that storyline, because when this season started and everything, the first half, they was quickly going through stuff. I'm like, wow, they're really getting to the point. They're rescuing the captives from last season. They're trying to figure out like who is the son. And when the son is like revealed and everything, they have to stop the entire family. I'm like, wow, they're moving at a fast pace. Like, you go, show. Like, they're really like, amping things up. But then you get to that second half and it's kind of like, hey, now you need to slow down, because you're going a little too fast. And I don't know the motive of this villain. And you don't find out the motive until her like last appearance and stuff. And it's like, really? So the stakes are high this season, which is great, but it does whimper here and there after a while, because there are several time jumps in this season, and it's just kind of like, you slow your roll, man. Just slow your roll down and everything. And not only that, but the stakes are even higher because each of the runaways, one of their parents dies this season. Except for one of the runaways, because that runaway dies just like they die in the comic. I'm like, what? But they die completely different in the comic. And like I said before, there's time travel involved. I do wonder, I really, really, truly, honest to God, wonder, when exactly did they find out that this could be their last season and Disney pulled some bull crap move on them? Because like when I was watching all this, like Cloak and Dagger on Freeform, I knew they was coming to an end because Disney announced that they want all their Marvel hero stuff on one platform, which is Disney Plus, and they don't want like all these Marvel television shows on like other channels and other like streaming services and stuff. They want everything on their platform so they can make money, which caused Cloak and Dagger and like Runaways and other shows to get like canceled. But then again, after that happened, they decided to make other shows and put it on other like streaming services because they bought out Hulu at that time. And then they bought like Fox, I think. And so they can get like, the X-Men and like Fantastic Four and Daredevil and stuff. And so that really, really put a huge monkey wrench into the formation of all these shows. So I do wonder, when exactly did they find out? Like, did they know ahead of time? Because nobody really truly knows if this whole foreshadowing, Easter egg at the end of the season, was it going to set up a potential season 4? Or or is it just like a fun Easter egg? Nobody knows. Like, was the finale supposed to be the finale, or did they find out and decide to write that as the finale? Nobody knows. Nobody really does any interviews with this show. The cast doesn't even really bring up this show no more. I think the only person who ever brought up this show just recently is the guy who played Alex, because they was interviewing him for like the Penguin, and he said, there's always the possibility that, the MCU could bring the show back. But he said if they do, it's going to be a little difficult because they're older now. They're no longer teenage runaways and stuff. They would have to play adult runaways. And what kind of version would it be? Would it be exactly their show? Or would it be like the MCU version of it? Because the Nico character in animation form is about to appear in Spider-Man, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, which was originally gonna be tied to the MCU and Tom Holland Spider-Man, until they decided to completely change it. And so now it's no longer connected to the MCU. And the actress Lyrica, who played Nico in the show, was supposed to voice Nico in the cartoon, but something happened and now she no longer is. Why is that exactly? I don't know. Maybe she has another project. I don't know, man. I haven't seen her in nothing. Like, I know she was the host of something, some cooking show on Roku, but I don't even know if that's still on or not. Because for the most part, everybody on that show has done other projects now. Like, the dude who plays Alex was in The Penguin. Carolina, she was in one of those Halloween movies. I think the guy who plays Chase, he was doing something else, and he's about to now reappear on Wizards Beyond Waverly Place. The actress who plays Gert, she was in some movie on Hulu. Who else? Oh, the actress who plays Molly. She hasn't acted since this show, but she's been doing music and stuff and posting pictures on Instagram and stuff like that. So I wouldn't mind if they bring this show back, because for now the cast isn't really doing all that much, except for the dude who plays Penguin. Well, in the Penguin show, that is. But his character died, so yeah. Ooh, sorry, spoiler alert. I didn't watch the show, I just heard. But anyway, it's all on YouTube, so everybody should know that by now. But he wants to play Miles Morales, which I had no idea that dude's even Afro-Latino. I thought he was just black. But it turns out he's Puerto Rican and Dominican. Now, Dominicans are half black and half Latino and stuff. I seriously had no idea. That dude's a really good actor. I haven't seen him on Penguin, but in the final episode of this season, he acts like three completely different characters because he's playing three completely different characters, but the same character. And in the beginning, he played like somebody else. And so he's really good in everything. Like he can do the tough guy, he can do the nerdy guy, he can do the boss, he can do the nerd. You know what I'm saying? Like he's really good and stuff. And so this season kind of reminds me a little bit of the first. The first season was really slow. They took too long to set everything up. Good season, don't get me wrong, but it just took too long to get there. The second season, in my opinion, is the best, and then the third is like the second best, but it does kind of falter a little bit. Um, and that's the problem with the fan base of this show is that the hardcore comic book fans were really pissed because it took them too long for the kids to actually run away, and it took too long to set everything up, and they didn't like, the changes made in the source material. Come the second season, most of those fans probably didn't even come back. And I don't even think they really came back for the third. I think the third might have the lowest rated season because not that many people came back and everything. But that's what happens when you differ from the source material because you're trying to tell a family oriented like comic book show. And yeah, the comic is very family oriented, but the parents are actually really evil. In the show, they're really not. And they actually have a heart of gold, even though they done bad stuff, but they're not really evil because they were manipulated and stuff like that. And I get that's, why they went that route. But at that same time, that is not the source material. And so that would be like introducing Victor Von Doom, and he does a couple of bad stuff, but he's really trying to save the world. Like that would be weird. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like the whole Zemo thing, man. Like, in the movie, Zemo was bad, but he didn't feel like Zemo. Then comes the television show, and he still doesn't feel like Zemo, but he's helping out and he's really nice. That's kind of how the parents are in this show. And it's irritating, man. It's very irritating. And so when I break down the character bios and everything, I'm going to do it per season only because the second half does like a couple of time jumps and it's gonna get a little confusing and stuff. Before I get into character bios, I want to get more about the cancellation of this show because there was a couple of things that was factor of it. Like I said before, Disney wanted all their Marvel stuff to be just like on their platform and no other platforms, which is why a lot of the stuff was getting canceled around that time. One thing I read was an article from Greg Skulkin, who plays Chase, and he said around that time, after the third season, they would have to start doing renegotiations. And as you all know, networks hates doing that. They hate renegotiating a person's salary because they normally want more money. And so studios normally don't like paying that. Now, the showrunner of the show said that the third season was just a nice ending point for the show, and there was no point to like continue it. However, like I also said before, ratings were a factor. It was like one of the lowest rated like comic book shows from Marvel and everything. And, the first season, because it was so slow, it had about 300,000 viewers and stuff. But by the second season, it bumped up to 600,000. Now, I'm not sure about the third season, but the first season was weekly and everything. And that really slowed things down even more when the first season was very slow itself. Now, I forgot when they started dropping them all on the same day, maybe in the second season, and I know in the third. And so because of that, like, oh, not my camera over. Because of all that slowness and everything, a lot of people just didn't really want to turn back in. And so Iron Fist had about like 1 million something viewers, and people hated that show. It was just god awful. And so it's kind of like, okay, that show's terrible, but it's still getting in ratings. But like, this show is not. But what helped Iron Fist was all the other Marvel shows on Netflix. When you watch one, you wanted to watch others. Sadly for Hulu and the Runaways, they didn't have that. They was like the only superhero show on Hulu. So people, didn't really want to like check it out and stuff. And because it was like, lowly rated and stuff, I said this before, Hulu and Disney Plus took it off their platform. When they were starting to do those whole tax cuts and trying to make money back and all this other crap, I guess they figured, hey, since it was a low rated show, they can just say, hey, it underperformed. We want our money back, and so they scrapped it and everything. And I'm not sure how many people watched it on both like Hulu or like Disney Plus, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't know. But then it eventually found this way on the CW. Thankfully, I was able to finish the rest of the series again and everything because I had wanted to watch it before, but then they went and took it off their platform. So there was a lot of factors into like, the cancellation. And like I said before, like, budget and money, because they would have to renegotiate people's salaries, who's all gonna come back, this and that. And like, like I said before, like in the third season, Elizabeth Hurley, she ain't cheap, man. I just did some research online. She's anywhere between, from what I read to book her, is anywhere between like, what is it, like $30,000 to $70,000 or something like that. And I think that's what it was. I don't think it was in the hundreds, I don't think. But when you have to add that in, then pay the cast and then CGI, and they film on location too, they tend to run out of a budget. So yeah, Robert, who is Nico's father. He spends his time in the hospital during the first half of this season because Nico really messed him up last season when she hit him with that spell and he fell in the back of some glass. I am so glad that this show establishes that, hey, if you fall through like a wall of glass or you hit up against a wall really hard or you bust through this thing, there's going to be implications. You're going to have some health problems and stuff. So I'm so glad this show will show that because other superhero shows don't do that. And non-superhero shows don't do that. And so he got hit with a huge piece of shrapnel glass in his neck, and he had to be taken to the hospital last season. And so that's where he remains for the first half of the season until he goes into cardiac arrest and dies, until a mysterious woman resurrects his body. Saffron this season takes on a much bigger role. She helps out the Runaways in a huge way. And yes, I said she and not they. Why? Because the Saffron in this show is not gender fluid like in the comics. In the comics, Saffron, they are a shape-shifting alien who comes to Earth, butts heads with all of the Runaways, and they fall in love with Carolina. Similar to what the one in the show does, however, the one in the comic is a different type of alien, a Skrull, and they are gender fluid. Their design looks like a hybrid of kind of like a male and a woman, and they bop around from different genders, but I think mostly taking on female or something like that. I'm not sure how deep the comic goes, you know what I'm saying, with the whole gender fluid thing. I don't know if they ever talk about it or address it, because you gotta remember the Runaways is a pretty like diverse comic, and it touches on the LGBT. Heck, the parents organization is called Pride of all things. And in the show, Zaffron is just female. She never takes on a male like body and everything. Like when she's shape shifting, she always takes female. And she's like, takes on this black female that she met last season, and that's pretty much her primary body that she wants to be in. And she never changes her clothes or her hair appearance until later on, in the first half of the season, when she lets her hair down and she changes her outfit because she's trying to, fit in more with like humans and change up her clothes and this and that. And her shape shifting effect is kind of like a low budget version of Mystique. So they're trying to keep in that whole Marvel, like, shape shifting look with the kind of like the quills and everything transforming your body. And it is ironic because I noticed she never takes the form of a male in this show. Now she's still in love with Carolina because she believes in the prophecy of that one day she will, fall in love with like the head magistrate's like daughter or whatever. And that's the betrothed thing and this and that. But of course, Carolina is not into that. And Nico, who her and Carolina are still kind of broken up, kind of not, really does not like that. And so she butts heads more with Nico than anybody else. Now, surprisingly, she forms a bond with Molly because Molly is so much better than what she was in the first two seasons. She's no longer acting like a child. And so we learn that Zaffron comes from a warlike race where she's like a soldier. So she doesn't have time for like emotions and stuff like that. And it's a really deep, profound speech that she gives when she's trying to help Molly, because Molly's like really upset about the aliens taking over, like, her adoptive mother's like body and like all kind of stuff, and her friends are captive. Because the thing is, in the first half of the seasons, the Runaways have no idea how they're going to free their family from like the aliens. And the only way to do that is to kill them like Nico did Jonah's human host and stuff. The Runaways are all for that, but Molly is not. Molly doesn't want to take a life, and she still cares about these people and stuff. And so like it's Molly that helps Zaffron discover emotions to where Zaffron cries for the first time. And it's a really touching little thing. Now, I do like how the actress plays Zaffron because, like, she plays him like a typical, like, alien who comes to Earth for the first time. She's oblivious to everything. She does like the little head tilts, kind of like a Star Trek Data type thing, and or like other little aliens you see in other shows. And so, because people don't know how to act like an alien because there are no aliens. Hopefully not. And so this is your typical Hollywood version of like an alien trying to be human and stuff. And, she uses her shape-shifting abilities to great details to help trick that of Jonah and his family and stuff and help the Runaways. Other than that, she doesn't seem to have no other power. But she is very protective of both like Carolina's mom, and the unborn baby and stuff. Once the baby is like delivered, the Runaways help her realize, well, no, actually, it's Leslie that helped her realize that she misinterpreted the prophecy and everything. The prophecy is for her to take this newborn baby into space and everything and help give it a good life and care for it, not as like a lover, but as like a mentor protector. she believes that and everything. And so when they get their teleporter like activated and stuff, she takes the baby and she teleports. Quite a shame because she was like a fascinating character, but they want to keep to like the core runaways, and plus budget and everything, because the show budget seemed to have, like I said before, increased this season. And if it didn't increase this season, they put it where it needed to be, which was like special effects and stuff like that, and probably to pay a certain actress. Dale. So Dale is on the run with that of Gert and Old Lace. And he's just being his typical, normal, happy, jolly self. But she gives him this huge speech about how she doesn't need him and how he helped kill people and this and that. And he realizes that, she can survive on her own. So he gives her Old Lace. But he does something really interesting. He teaches her how to use Old Lace. And apparently, Gert has the ability to see through Old Lace's eyes, can hear and smell through Old Lace, and she can even control Old Lace telepathically with her mind. I'll get into more about that later because that's gonna piss me off. And I'll explain why in a couple of minutes. Chase's mom, whose name I can't remember right now. Seriously, either these people had other projects, which I don't explain how, because this show will come out every year, so they knew they had to be on this show, or because of the budget, which I'm still guessing Elizabeth Hurley, has a high pay raise and everything, because a lot of these parents barely show up in the show, which normally they barely show up, but they show up a whole lot more than what they normally do. Even some of the runaways, kind of like at least one of the characters will miss a total of like 3 episodes but have a cameo in it. And so like Chase's mom is in the algorithm along with Chase and Carolina. And so you see whatever like happy, pleasant thing that, Jonah wants you to see, which don't make you sense. Why would he give you like a something happy to see if he's like so evil? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, she's in there and she realizes straight on she's in the algorithm because of the way certain things are. And she has no way of like, getting out until like, she is later rescued by like Alex, the real Alex and stuff. And so because, everybody in the algorithm is like a hologram and stuff. And so with the help of him, and then she later gets chased and she helps like Carolina and all them. Getting out is not as easy as it used to be when she used to go in there because there's like, a security code blockage and stuff. And with the help of Carolina, who can phase through it and everything and open the door, she realizes that she has to help Carolina open the door. But one of them has to stay behind, so she offers to stay behind, upsetting that of Chase. She says that, when you're in the algorithm for too long, your body will eventually die. So she knows this is going to be a massive sacrifice to where she's going to die inside the algorithm. But she just cares more about her son, wanting him to survive and everything. So, yeah, Chase's mom body actually dies inside the algorithm. More on that when I get to the second part of like this season. Darius. So him and his wife got arrested for last season when Alex set them up. And so they are unable to get out of jail until Alex's mom thinks of a way to get at least her husband out. She takes the rap and everything for Darius' murder because she's the one who murdered him and stuff. And so, like, because of that, Jeffrey, he gets to get released from prison and she doesn't. And so after that, he calls up Alex, but Alex really doesn't want to talk to him and stuff. And for the most part, that's all we really see of him, Dale, and Chase's like mom. And also Robert. Like I said, like in those like first four episodes, they go by really quickly. Catherine. So, of course, she's in jail because she took the rap for killing Darius because, she did and everything. And her reason for taking the rap is because, her husband was already in jail or prison years ago. And she doesn't want him to rot in prison for her mistake and everything because she acted too rash. And so she wants to see Alex, and he finally goes to see her. But it's not the happy ending she wanted. He just basically trash talks her, cusses her out, says he doesn't want nothing to do with her because, like, pride is evil. She killed people, and she killed her, his friend Darius. So he leaves her, and those are the last words she hears from him because when she goes back to her cell, the prison guard locks the door, and there are three women in the cell who are very scary looking. Next thing you know, when the women leave, the cell opens and we see a dead Catherine. She got shanked to death. And so when Jeffrey finds out, he's upset. He calls Alex, and Alex regrets how he spoke to like his mom and stuff. And it's really sad because, yeah, like I said before, the family is evil, and for the most part, Catherine was evil, but there is like goodness in her heart. Like when Amy died, she was pissed at Jonah and didn't want no part of that. And she kind of scolded Alex a little bit for not going to Amy's funeral and stuff. And we see that flashback with the funeral. It's so weird to see the Runaways and like before, like, they changed or some of them changed their appearance. Nico was not goth. Gert did not have purple hair. And Alex didn't have his Don King looking hair. He had just like an afro, which was so big and puffy and matted. It looked so weird because they had to like press down his hair. God, he looked so bizarre. But yeah, they straight up just killed her very early on by like the second or third episode. I'm like, holy crap, dude. But there's a reason why that woman killed her, and there's a reason why the guard turned his back and locked the cell. Because somebody paid them to do that, and that person is Tamar of you probably should have guessed it straight up. She still wanted revenge for her husband dying, and of course Jeffrey paid her all that money to like make amends, but she used that money to bribe people in prison and bribe the guard and everything. She doesn't do much this season at all, and she's only probably in like 3 episodes. There is like no sign of Livy in this on this season. There's not even no mention of her. And so like when it comes to Tamar, like after Catherine died and it was on the news, Alex shows up at her place. She is scared out her mind. She goes to her drawer and gets a gun. But then she realized, oh wait, it's Alex, and she doesn't want to hurt Alex, so she puts the gun back and everything. More on why he showed up later. So Alex, this season, he helps Nico like rescue the rest of the Runaways when they're held captive by Jonah. He is having a hard time trying to figure out this alien language, but Janet, when that's Chase's mom's name, Janet. When he contacts her in the what did I call it, the abstract or whatever? No, the algorithm. Like, she gives him the abstract to learn how to read the alien language. Something, I don't know if it was Jonah, her, or Victor that came up with it, but she's really smart as well, I said, last review. And so he's trying to use that, but of course, Jonah's family is hot on their trail and stuff. And so he helps Nico and Molly along with like Gert and Zaffron to like rescue the others and stuff. The dude is exceptionally smart. But it sucks how he never really gets his happy ending. He always gets crapped on. Him and Nico are still on the rocks because of what happened in the first season. And in the second season, they really had no interaction with each other. And because they both moved on. She moved on to Carolina, he moved on to Livy, and they just never really spoke. And so they work together to like, rescue the others. He even takes like Chase's like goggles and I think one of his fisticuffs and stuff because he has no powers of his own. He's just really, really smart. After his dad gives him the heartbreaking news about his mom, he is just like beside himself. But it triggers something in him. And what does it trigger? It triggers Jonah's son. Yes, Alex is indeed the host body for Jonah's son. Something nobody knew about last season. So it's kind of like, when exactly was the body ever able to, the host alien was able to take over the host body? He did it off screen and there were things that he was doing. It turns out by surveillance that he's been accelerating the growth of Leslie's child, Jonah's child, and stuff. So much that she's about to give birth any minute. And so, like, it's interesting seeing him in Alex's body. Like, remember, he is the most evil out of all Jonah's family, even more than Jonah himself. And so he likes being on Earth. He likes being in that body, and he doesn't want to go back home and everything to his alien planet. So he makes a deal with Jonah. He'll give up his power as prince and first in line for the throne, and he'll give Jonah that of Leslie unborn baby, and he'll get to stay on Earth and everything and betray that of like his mom and like sister. And so, like, but there's a problem. Like, he has to deal with a pregnant Leslie who is starting to suspect something's wrong with him. And when he goes to get her donuts and stuff, they've now changed the power of Carolina. They can still shoot out energy blasts, but they can make whips out of their light energy and stuff. And he kills the donut worker dude. And so he has no idea how to deliver this baby. And it's funny seeing him freak out about it. So he goes to the hospital, but realizes, no, they'll ask too many questions. So he takes her to Tamar. And this is where Tamar pulled out the gun, but then put it back and everything. She has no idea about the runaways having powers and all this other stuff. But Leslie is smart enough to tip off that up to Tamar. And so, whatchamacallem? So she calls the runaways and they show up. And so Tamar legit gives Nico the gun because she left her staff. But she had no idea Molly had super strength and Carolina and this and that. So she's finding everything out very quickly. So it's literally Carolina and it's Nico just chasing down Alien Alex and everything. And they're just running down like the streets. And Carolina tries to like cut them off. And so it's just him and Nico and a fence. And Nico's literally is about to shoot him and everything. Until he tells her, hey, look, man. Do you really want to kill Alex and everything? And if you shoot me or kill me or whatever, I'm just going to jump in your body and I'm going to have the gun. So she lets him get away and everything. Other than that, he later steals the baby. by calling like the ambulance and everything. Then he attacks like the paramedics, and he takes the baby and he takes it to Jonah, where he helps power up the transporter and everything. Leslie really doesn't have much to do this season, and ah, my God, may the actress rest in peace. It's so sad she's gone. She was a lovely woman and a good actress. She even played the new board queen in Star Trek Picard season 3. And one of the reasons why she probably wasn't in this season that much, I don't know if she was pregnant in real life. She does have kids. That could be why she wasn't in the show that much. But like, she's barely in the first season after giving birth, and she's barely in the second half. I say first season, I mean first half of the season, and she's barely in the second half. I'll just already spoil it now. After the second half, she goes back to the church and gets that like organized and everything, which is odd and bizarre, but there's a reason for that. But basically, she's barely in the second half. I don't even know if she was in the final battle or not. I can't remember. But it's like she's barely in the show, and it's probably because, she probably gave birth in real life and also the whole cancer thing. And oh, it was just so sad to see her go, man. Like to hear about that, it's like, dude, like no, I just recently saw you in Star Trek Picard, and she played a great board queen and everything from an alternate timeline. So Jonah and his family. So Jonah hopped in the body of Victor, played by I think James Masters or something. That's his name, I believe. The dude who played Spike in like Buffy. Honestly, I like when James plays Jonah better than Julian McManus. I think that's his name is. Nothing against Julian, because I do like him as Cole in Charm. But I don't know, other bad guy roles I just can't feel. Like I didn't so much like him as Jonah that much. Only when he acted mean. That was the only time he was like cool. But I really did not like him as Victor Von Doom, Doctor Doom and stuff in the Fantastic Four movie. He was just off and they didn't want to screw up his face, and he rarely wore the mask. I hate when actors do that. But anyway, Jonah's big plan is to go home. Jonah has been stuck on Earth for thousands of years. And so his family has been trapped along with Zafran in the spaceship. He's like, I always wonder what exactly was this dude's big plan. I always assumed it would be to like invade Earth because he got exiled from his planet. Because he's like a ruler, and the evil ruler of his planet got exiled with his family and was trapped on Earth. And so he took over the church and he manipulated the parents and like using their technology. And I know he wanted to leave in the second season. And now that his family's out and in human host, I assume he might want to stay and try to rule the world, but no, he still just wants to go home. And he wants Carolina to be with him. And I'm all like, okay, he is evil, but not really. And that's what really sucks about these parents, is that they're not truly evil and they care way too much about their kids. And that really just ruins from what the comic built up, because the parents are pure evil and everything. And they will straight up try to kill their kids if need be in the comic. Here is completely different. So his wife, who is in Stacy's body, she is straight up mean. And I mean very mean and everything. And so, like, she found out that Jonah made a baby with Leslie and it's Carolina. She goes in the algorithm, and because in the algorithm, Carolina's having a wedding with Nico. So she is pissed and basically deletes all the people in the algorithm so Carolina can be alone, and Carolina gets to see a dying Nico. Not only that, but she's all like, we should eat. one of these three people, and it should probably be your daughter. So that's when Jonah finds out, crap, you know about her and stuff. And so, like, when I say this woman is straight up mean, I mean she is straight just mean. But remember, the son is the most evil. The daughter is inside Tina's body, and the daughter acts like a Valley Girl teenager. It's weird because last season they took over the host's body, and they seem to know what things are on Earth, even though they've never been on Earth. They've been in the spaceship for thousands of years. Here, this season, they all act like typical aliens in television. They're tilting their heads, they're looking around, they don't know what nothing is. And it's kind of fun to see that because it's kind of like it gives their character more depth. And it's fun to see the actors portray them that way. She's just as mean and evil, but she wants power. And she wants her brother's power. So she schemes along with her father and everything to trick the mom and to get the power from like the brother. So towards the end of the first half of the season, they do battle with all the runaways. And so each like alien host fights that of one of the runaways that's related to them. Chase, there's not much with him in the first half because he's in the algorithm and stuff. But in his algorithm, he's like a major hero and everything. He's the one who's saving the day, defeating the parents, dressed the way they were in season one, taking people's lives. They want to take Gert's life. So he's busting in, shooting them with the fisticuffs, like, doing like this superhero-y type stuff and everything. I'm like, when I saw that, that's the opening of this season. I'm like, man, why can't we have more fight scenes like this? That's the problem with this show. This show needed action bad. And the little action we got was good, but it needed more. And it's not that hard to do some fight scenes. It's not hard to make stuff explode. And his power, the fisticuffs, the mechanical thing, it can't be that hard to make CGI cartoon like blasting effects. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, that's what we should have seen in every episode, like a major fight and less of like the drama stuff. That's the problem with TV today. The action shows don't have that much action. Comic book shows don't have that much action. And so like so once he realizes, everything fake, like I said before, he lost his mom. And so when he gets out the algorithm, the runaways are still pissed he left them last season. Him and Gert are like on the rocks all season, but the dude still loves her to death. And just like the villain of the second half says, like, they make a cute couple. It shouldn't work, but somehow it does because he's this preppy boy jock and she's like this ultra feminist like activist and everything. And they shouldn't get along, but they do and everything. Carolina, when she's in the algorithm, she's having a Wiccan wedding with that of Nico. She truly loves Nico to death. Alex is the one officiating over the wedding, which is crazy because that's kind of Nico's ex in a way, but they never truly 100% got together, but they was close to it. And so it's cool that she wants all her friends there, her family there, but of course, Jonah's wife took that away from her. And she had to watch like a dying Nico. And Carolina truly madly loves that of Nico. That is like her soulmate and everything. But then Zafran comes in and she's like, yo, look, I'm not into you like that. I don't care what no prophecy says. But she still takes the advice of Zafran. And it's cool to see those two partner up and everything. Her and her mom have 100% reconciled, and she doesn't even think of her father. Those two barely interacted when he was in Victor's body. Molly is 100% better. No longer is she acting young and gooberish, but the reason why she was written young and gooberish, because in the comic, she is the youngest and she acts more like a kid than anybody else. Even so much as making a makeshift superhero costume with a cape and underwear over her pants, and like something you would make homemade and everything in the comics. So they didn't do that here, but just like in the comics, she always wants to be a superhero. However, you don't hear that from her this season. This season, like, she only mentions about being a superhero once, and that's in like the ninth episode. And so in the first half of the season, she's just really emotional because her friends want to kill that of their parents who have aliens inside them. She is not for killing. And it's really upsetting her. Even Zaffron's all like, you're gonna have to do it, if you want them back, but they won't be back because their bodies are gonna be dead. But like, she is the one who connects the most with Zaffron and brings out Zaffron's humanity and stuff. And it's fun seeing those two interact because Zaffron's like just doing what she sees on TV with people sitting next to each other, like pat the side, like sit here, and now it's time for a hug and everything. And it's really cute seeing those two like, together. And she helps rescue like, the others. Gert. So after she gives like Dale that big speech and everything, he gives her old lace. And so she has this cool new power that she can control old lace and see through old lace's eyes. The problem with this is that because of budget reasons, old lace is never used in a battle. We never see Gert ever use this old lace. Never. Not even during the second villain and everything. Not even with the first villains of this season. And I'm just kind of like, what the point? What was the point in giving her this extra power if she never uses it? Oh, because it's from the comics. Who cares? I mean, if she's never going to use this ability, and we rarely see old lace in the set, I'm telling you, man, that budget money must have went to Elizabeth or something because old lace barely shows up in the second half. And she never fights or nothing like that. And I'm just kind of like, it was so pointless giving her that power. But anyway, she had to like fight like alien Stacy, and it turns out she knows how to use a butterfly knife. For some bizarre reason, in the first half of the season, she's acting really tough and even wearing a leather jacket. For a bunch of homeless people, they sure have a bunch of clothes to change into and stuff. Nico. So before I get into Nico, Chase. See, Chase and Carolina and all them, they are the ones this season who are kind of like having to take charge of the group because Alex is an alien and Nico will kind of shift away from them in the second half. And so like they found a bunch of medieval weapons in the hostel from Quentin the Great. And so they infused it with like, inhibitor metal from like what Jonah created to go along with Carolina's like, bracelet. Carolina's alien body like is needed a lot to defeat like, both villains this season, which is really cool. She doesn't do too much this season, but at least like, her alienness comes in handy. Nico is like, this whole season, the first and second half basically revolves around her. And the reason for that is because she became a breakout character in the other two seasons, especially in season 2. So it makes sense that she will have the bulk of like the heavy lifting and stuff. She still don't know what the heck is going on with her powers, why her eyes turn black and purple. She thinks at first the alien brother could be inside her. She doesn't trust herself and everything. She doesn't trust herself with the staff. And so she is just like, beside herself. However, in the beginning of the season, like the first episode, when she's dreaming, she's taken to a mystical land and like a poppy field and everything full of flowers. This is where a lot of the budget had to go, and honestly, it looks pretty believable. You can still tell it's CGI, but they did a really good job. And not only are they on like, a green screen, but the flowers, every single last flower, and there are hundreds of flowers, are swaying back and forth, not all moving at the same time. Some move in different directions, but they're all moving. That's a lot of dedication to the CGI, where like the budget went. And she's talking to this mysterious, gorgeous woman named Morgan, and she has no idea who she is, but she doesn't like her invading her dreams. And Morgan is constantly talking to her all through the first half of the season, but makes very brief cameos. Of course, Morgan is played by Elizabeth Hurley. And so Morgan is guiding her with the staff and the power to do a massive spell that can get rid of like the aliens and stuff like that. And so like because Nico's not even acting like the mother figure this season. She did in the second season, but not this season. And so whatchamacallem. Um when she fights Jonah, he like breaks the staff with his like whip power now. It's weird. They can make the light energy turn to whip. And so as everybody got through fighting the family and they're trying to power up the machine and they're trying to fight everybody, she uses the staff and she uses a massive spell that Morgan told her in her mind. She doesn't know what the spell is and she doesn't even remember it because it's mostly Morgan like controlling her and stuff. The spell is so massive that in the next episode, everybody is asleep in the hostel, and you're just kind of like, how the heck did they get there? Why are they asleep now? Because the spell she used made Jonah and Jonah's entire family disappear. And after the spell, everybody asked her, where did you send them? Similar to what she did to AWOL and everything. And so then in the next episode, everybody wakes up and they're just in the hostel and it's just like, what the heck is going on? Now, we do see AWOL in that mystical land talking about everything's okay, I'm in a better place. And so, you shouldn't like feel sorry. But then it turns out when they're in the hostel, everything is like 1920s. And they even meet Quentin the Great. They are now in the dark dimension. So, like I said before, they had to have a bigger budget this season because finally, twice this happened, we get to see Nico use her staff in a way that's straight from the comics. So in the show, they didn't have the budget long time ago, and Nico would carry her staff on like a strap and harness on her back. But in the first half of the season, the staff is inside her body. Yes, just like the comic. And it emerges from her chest just like the comic. I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe they were able to finally do that because now they had the budget. Until the second half of the season when it's no longer comes out her chest and she's back to just attaching it to the harness on her back. I swear. So the Dark Dimension episode is the 5th episode. The whole Jonah's family thing, that is now completely over. And everybody has been transported to the Dark Dimension, the parents and like the runaways. And so it's kind of like, that's it. The whole Jonah family arc is like over. I guess when they went to the Dark Dimension, did it kill them or something? Like the aliens and stuff is never explained. When I say this season is rushed, boy, I mean it's rushed. And it's just kind of like, well, what the heck happened to them and everything? I guess they died in the dark dimension and they had no host bodies to go to. Um, I guess that's that. And so, like, while they're there in like the dark dimension, Quentin's talking to the kids and it's all like, you have to hurry and find your parents and you have to hurry and get out of here because if you stay too long, the dark dimension will not only corrupt you, but you will forget who you are and stuff. And so when they leave out the hostel, they're separated because the dark dimension separates them. Nico meets a reanimated version of like her grandmother and two aunts. And oh, I forgot to mention. Oh yeah, I think I did mention that. But the whole staff. So like her grandmother wants the staff badly and is gonna cut it out her chest until she's rescued by Amy. And so they go to find Nico's mom. And Nico's mom, see, the dark dimension also makes you live out your nightmare. And so Nico's mom nightmare is the day Amy died. Nico rescues her mom, and so like she has to find the others. Carolina's nightmare is that of the whole church thing killing the like teenagers and stuff. There are 17 teenagers and they all go to attack her, but then they go run and hide because they say the darkness is coming. What is the darkness? A demonic version of Nico. See, Nico is scared that the darkness inside her is gonna corrupt everything. And she asks Carolina, are you scared of me? And Carolina lies and is like, no. Deep down inside, Carolina is worried that Nico might turn like truly evil or hurt people and stuff like that. Lyrica does a great version of like evil Nico, demonic version. It's freaky and everything. And so like Chase, he's in Victor's nightmare and Victor's getting his butt beat by his father. So Chase gets to meet his grandfather, gets to like stop him and rescue his dad. Molly is not there. I forget what the heck happened to Molly. Oh, Molly went, I think, and found the boy. I'll get into that a little bit later. And so she's not there. And whatchamacallem, Gert, dude, like her mom's nightmare, Stacy's nightmare, is really messed up. So Gert finds out that Old Lace is not the original dinosaur. And see, Old Lace is different. In the show, she's just genetically made. In the comics, they went back in time to get her and alter her genetics. Anyway, so Stacy, when she was working on the original Old Lace, because there are multiple versions of her, and each one turned out to be worse than another, so they had to kill them. Old Lace is the only good one. And so like, also I think Old Lace in the comic might be vegetarian, but in the show she eats meat. But anyway, when Dale and like, Stacy was working on the Old Lace dinosaur projects, Gert would sneak into the lab as a little girl. And so Stacy would wipe her mind clean. And Gert finds this out and feels so violated and everything. And Stacy even wipes her mind. And like, the whatchamacallem place. The dark dimension. Oh wait, Molly is in the dark dimension. I forgot. It's the second time she's not there, but the first time she is. And she meets her parents and stuff. And she's so happy, but she realizes that since her parents aren't there, it's not their nightmare. It's kind of like hers, kind of. And her parents only have a memory of her from when she was a little girl. So then she sees what her parents used to do, how they used to lure in kids for Jonah and stuff, and it really upsets her. Anyways, as they all reunite, Amy's all like, I was supposed to betray you for Morgan. She's evil. Don't trust her. Blah, 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 blah. And but I couldn't do it, so I have to go, and I can't come back with y'all because Morgan will know. Because the moment Morgan made Nico use that spell, it sent them to the dark dimension, but it caused Morgan and her coven of witches to escape. And so after they all leave and everything, it's revealed that Amy was never Amy. It was really Quentin the Great pretending to be Amy and everything because he really hates Morgan and didn't want to hurt those kids. When they returned back to the real world, they realized something. They was unable to get Alex because time was running out and they were starting to forget who they were. So Nico is pissed and wants to go back in, but she can't remember the spell and her mom will not help her. And so, like, she doesn't want to leave him there because he's going to forget who he is and stuff. But when they come back to the real world, they realize something. They've only been in there for a couple of hours or maybe a day. But in the real world, 6 months have passed. And so that's our first time jump. So now the second half of the season and 6 months has passed and Morgan Le Fay is slowly taking over. Now Morgan Le Fay, yes, is from Marvel comic books. She's also from DC comic books and also from King Arthur's mythology. But here's the thing in the comics. I don't think she has no ties to that of the Runaways in the comics. So I'm not sure why she's the central villain of the show. I guess because they needed Nico to go up against a sorceress and everything. So that's probably my only assumption. And so as you can see, this is her witch's costume and everything. It's very similar to that of the comic. And you will never see nobody in the MCU dressed like this. The closest that ever came to that is Wanda before she became the Scarlet Witch. Back when she was on the Avengers and she would show like a little cleavage, wear her skirts and everything. That's the closest you'll ever come to it. Hela from Thor Ragnarok is supposed to dress similar to that of Morgan Le Fay, but doesn't. And as you saw in Thor Ragnarok, she was covered from head to toe. And so that's the MCU-ish type costumes that they always go for. In a post-Me Too era, you just would never see that in an MCU project. But this is not the MCU. This is like adjacent to it. And they went full-on sex appeal. And my God, Elizabeth Hurley looks amazing. The woman is like in her 50s and she is just gorgeous. I forgot how old she is. She might be older than in her 50s, close to probably 60s or mid 50s. I'm not really sure, not in front of a computer right now. But the woman is drop dead sexy. And so like Morgan Le Fay is slowly taking over, I guess you could say, the world and everything, right? Now we don't know her plan and it's very much spread out and we were not going to find it out until the 9th episode. I wish they would have just straight up told people, but they didn't. But we know she's nefarious and we know she is manipulating Nico. She wants the staff of one extremely bad, which by the way, yes, they really did retcon the staff of one since season 1. It was mystical and technological in season 1, but since season 2, it's all about that magic. And so I'm glad they retconned that. And so she just desperately wants that staff and will do whatever it takes to get it. She's very cunning and everything like that. Witches in this Marvel show are completely different from the MCU. One, like I said before, the witches in this show they look like supermodels. Whereas in the MCU, they just look like ordinary women, and the ones we've seen so far are middle-aged women and stuff, or older women. And they dress from head to toe and everything. And so, like, their power set is completely different. With the MCU, they wiggle their fingers and you see like, like magical, colorful smoke around their fingers and stuff. If they use power from the dark hole, then their fingertips turn like black. And the way they do their chants and this and that are completely different from this show. Here, they use hand gestures and multiple different hand gestures. They have their own version of the Doctor Strange, like magical rings around his hand. The runes and everything. Their different hand gestures have like a puff of like kinetic energy, along with like other like effects and stuff. It's very quick. And like when they do what the heck ever they did to Molly and Nico, they put them in like a trance, they dance around them, and then they wake up with tons of women around them like they've been in an orgy or something like that. I can't explain it. I don't even know what the heck happened. They also can pretty much just do whatever they think of. Like, when Gert meets this guy and he overhears a conversation with like, one of the witches in the coven, and she doesn't like what she's hearing because he divulged certain information, she wipes his memory completely clean from like the day of birth, where he doesn't remember nothing. And so Morgan is later revealed like why she wants the staff of one. See, I've been wondering for the longest time, what the heck is her end game? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is she here? Why did she want to leave the dark dimension? This and that. It's revealed that when Tina was younger, she trained with Morgan. When Morgan was in the dark dimension, and she trained with her, and she had Tina steal the staff of one from their family museum. But she realized Morgan was evil, and so she just kept the staff for herself and never put it back in the museum. And so ever since then, Morgan has wanted out. So if her mom is around in the 40s or 50s, Morgan is trying to get out for like thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And so like, she realized she can get out through Nico since Nico has the staff. Now, when this second half of the season starts, everybody is glued to their cell phones like zombies. And that's because 6 months while everybody was away, Morgan took over Wizard, the company that Tina's family runs. Now, Wizard is a made-up company for the show. And so, like, this app pretty much brainwashes people. It also makes them very aggressive. Why? Because it uses magic from the dark dimension and stuff. And there are like feathers inside like the cell phones. 'Cause that's all like Morgan, that's her whole thing. Crows, just like in the comics. And so the power is corrupting these people, and there's a reason why she needs them as zombies, because she's gonna feed off their energy to be stronger. She also wants some of the runaways to absorb their magic and powers and stuff to make her stronger, like Molly, because she doesn't want to be defeated very easily, because you can just easily kill them with like a weapon from the dark dimension, or one of one of daggers, like light daggers and stuff, infuse the power of darkness, which I'll get into a little bit later. And so like, it turns out her end game is to release everything from the dark dimension and bring it into the real world, and all those like demonic people and angry people and stuff like that. And it turns out that she needs the staff to control everything. I don't get it. Like, I understand, okay, she wants to brainwash people, absorb their energy, bring the darkness into like the real world. But why exactly does she need the staff to control all that? What's so special about this one staff and this one staff only when she has the Darkhold? It's just a plot device for to give her and Nico something to do because the season revolves around Nico. And she knows that Alex is trapped in the Darkhold, not Darkhold, but the Dark Dimension, and Nico wants him out. So she's going to manipulate Nico all she can. She is also the mysterious woman who gave Robert back his life. Now, when it comes to that of Elizabeth Hurley's performance, see, here's the thing. I like Elizabeth Hurley as an actress. She's gorgeous, and what's given to her, she normally does a really good job with, except for Gossip Girl, people said. People said they did not like her in Gossip Girl. I've never seen Gossip Girl, so I don't know. She's been an actress since like the 80s. She was in Austin Powers, Bedazzled. She was in the unaired pilot of Wonder Woman. And she was in The Royals. I've got to talk about that. I recorded season 3 and 4, just never made the video. I need to upload that sometime in December. But anyway, season 3 and 4 is not my favorite. But anyway, she's really, really good in that show when she plays a queen of England, right? But here's the thing about Elizabeth Hurley that I'm starting to realize. After watching her in a couple of projects, I've noticed not only is she getting typecast, but she tends to act the same way in every role. At least when she came back to Hollywood. See, after a while, she left Hollywood for 8 years to start a family. She also started a bikini company, which is why she's always posting pictures of herself in bikinis on Instagram. And to show people she still got it. And so, like, once she came back to Hollywood, she started getting typecast in certain roles where she literally plays the same type of, like, character. And lately, she's been doing a lot of Christmas movies and stuff. But then the thing I've started to notice about her, after watching her in The Royals, after watching her in the unaired Wonder Woman pilot, and watching her in this show, I forgot how she was in Austin Powers, and I forgot how she was in Bedazzled. But I'm starting to realize, while she's good in playing those type of roles, like she always plays like an authority type figure, somebody in charge, somebody who's very posh, very proper, very British, you know what I'm saying? I noticed that she's not exactly the world's greatest actress because she doesn't have no range. She doesn't have no depth. Even in emotional scenes, they're never really given to her and stuff. Like, I've never seen her in a big, impactful role where, you know, they had to tear down her psyche and give like a performance. She's not a Shakespearean trained actress. And it's led many people to kind of like turn on her and say she's not good at all. And it's because she has no range and no depth. She has the look, you know what I'm saying? But it's like she always plays those same type of roles. She always plays that authority type figure who's very proper, very posh and everything. And she does a good job, like in this role, when it comes to manipulating people. But then when it comes to her having to be evil, there's no range, no depth, and no gravitas. There's no change in her voice, really. It's just she's acting more stern and more grumpy, but in a parent kind of way. Not in a I'm a like million-year-old witch bent on like taking over the world kind of way. She's not really giving like a performance, you know what I'm saying? And like it really weighs down that character when her character has to act evil and in the big battle. It's just kind of like I just wanted to see more from her, you know. And so she's cast well as playing like this businesswoman working for Wizard, but when it comes to that of being the actual witch and everything, while she looks great, she's not really acting like an evil sorceress and everything. And this is where like they really should have casted somebody who had more depth and somebody who's more of a Shakespearean actress and stuff. And so I'm kind of irritated by that because I like part of her performance, but I just needed more. You know what I'm saying? And I wish she would like adapt her acting ability to have more depth and gravitas and stuff because I would like to see her in more roles in different type of roles, you know? And so one of the people she manipulates is Robert to get him away from Tina and to help him get Nico, help her get Nico. So they're dating and everything. She gave him back his life, and he's under her spell. One way she puts men under spells is wearing a necklace with the skull of a crow. And so he's happily in love with her, and Tina's just kind of like, what the heck is going on? I've been gone for 6 months while you've been in the hospital and you're shacking up with her. She slaps the taste out of Morgan's mouth, but that little outburst caused her to get locked up. Robert is later able to get away from the spell because once like Tina comes back, she just pretty much breaks the skull thing with her magic and it just frees him from the spell somehow. So he helps Nico steal the Darkhold, and with the wizard glasses, which are like meta glasses, they basically can record everything you look at. So he's recording the spell. She can tell when somebody touches the Darkhold because it hurts her chest. So she's pissed and is all like, I gave you your life back and I'm about to take it away. So she takes his life and everything. And so Nico and Tina, you know, they go to like comfort him as he's dying, and Robert dies. I'm like, oh man, but you gotta remember something. It's not really Morgan who killed him. It was Nico who killed him in the second season by mistake. The dark dimension power took over Nico's mind with the staff, and she exacted that big spell that bust him and his mom, her father and mother through the glass, and the glass impaled his neck. So she had technically killed him, and he was just on life support by Morgan, but she was never gonna let him live long enough anyways. So yeah, Robert is dead. Now he does appear a bit more than what he did in the second season, but not by much. He's only in the second half of the season, but only for like a couple of episodes. Tina and Nico have completely reconciled now. And Tina is pissed that Robert is with Morgan because she hates Morgan. After slapping Morgan, Robert has her committed to a psych ward where she's under the care of Morgan at the hospital because Morgan's taking over everything and her witches are taking over like the city and stuff. And so Nico is able to sneak that of her mother out the hospital. And after that, her mom just pretty much aids Nico in whatever she needs. She's also the one who helps sends Morgan back into the dark dimension. Victor is a whole lot nicer than what he used to be, and him and Chase have reconciled now. And it's like he has more comedic stuff to do the second half because, you know, Jonah was in his body. Him and Stacy go to like this place where people talk about getting like taken by aliens, and he just thinks it's so stupid and ridiculous. It makes for some of the most comedic stuff when Stacy's there. And everything. It's funny to see those two interact because Stacy and Victor never really interact with each other, but they slept together when the aliens were in their bodies and stuff. After that, he pretty much just assists on help taking down Morgan with Chase and everything, building stuff that they need. They realize that when the people are being controlled by like the cell phones, they can hear Morgan's voice. And a couple of the runaways get like, you know, succumb to that. But Carolina doesn't because she's an alien. So they use her DNA to like, you know, make an inhibitor, chemical that prevents them from like being taken over and stuff. Janet, whose body died in the algorithm, her mind merged with it, and now she's a computer program and stuff. And so she's able to assist Victor and the Runaways with stuff that they need to do. So technically she is dead, but her mind is inside a living computer. Now this is interesting, and I'm not sure what happens to her in the comic, but Victor in the comic is actually a cyborg and stuff. Jeffrey is the most shocking of them of all. What happens to him? So he was never in the dark dimension. So for 6 months, he had no idea what his son was and everything else. His wife is dead, and he's been taken over by the cell phone wizard technology and stuff. Him and Tamar date. Yes. I can't believe this. Now, this is what's crazy. The cell phone dark dimension stuff, it does corrupt your mind. But it doesn't make you do nothing you really don't want to do unless Morgan is making you do stuff you don't want to do. And she needs that of like Jeffrey's help because of his prior organization and stuff and money resources. But she does not need Tamar. So the fact that him and Tamar are hooking up is weird because his wife killed Tamar's husband and Tamar killed his wife. But he doesn't know Tamar set all that up. This is one of those rush storylines for shock value. And that's really all Tamar is for in the second half. She's just there to date him and stuff like that. Now, to skip ahead into the future events from the year 2023, because they do another time jump, it's said that him and Alex, created Wilder inventions or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. And they say he has a new girlfriend. That's what Alex said, that his dad is dating a new girlfriend. Now, online, that is true. That's what Alex says. His dad is dating a new girlfriend. He didn't say Tamar, and he never said his dad was married. Online, however, there's a misconception. If you go to the Runaways wiki fandom page, it literally says that him and Tamar got married in the future. They never did. And it's never suggested that those two are dating in the far future. So I don't know why fans wrote that for. Now, Jeffrey is hurt really bad by Molly when she's under control of Morgan. She punches him through like a metal AC unit or something like that. And there's a big piece of shrapnel in his side. And he had Stacy try to heal him and everything, because she's a little bit of a medic, but is contemplating whether or not he's gonna die or not. But like I said before, you find out in the future he is indeed alive. Stacy doesn't do much in the second half other than the comedic stuff with Victor. But then later when she meets Dale, he's all he couldn't believe that she slept with Victor / Jonah. And it's all we're going to 2 months of marriage counseling. She's all no, not 2 months, but 2 days of marriage counseling out of the week. And she's all 3 days and everything. But she helps assist with the Runaways and making that fluid that makes them impervious to Morgan's mind control. Dale, on the other hand, so I've been wondering what the heck Dale's been up to and where did he go when he was on the lam. Turns out he didn't go far. He just went to the church, Carolina's mom's church and everything. And that's where he's been living, in a tent, and has not showered in 6 months. He's pretty much just making voice recordings of log entries and stuff. But when Molly finds him, he tells Molly, your parents were good people, but they did the bad stuff of recruiting the teens, and they mostly brought in Hispanic teens because, the parents spoke Spanish. And then he mentions Leslie's name, which Molly still to this day never knew who exactly murdered her parents and stuff. And when she finds out it's Leslie, oh, she is not happy. Carolina doesn't do much of anything in the second half of this season. I'll get to the future events much later when I get to the future episode. She does use her powers a bit more, but her body never lights up fully. They didn't have the budget for that with everything else. But they do let her hand glow and she shoots out like laser beams and stuff. But she never lights up completely and she never flies this season. Which is crazy because they had in the other two seasons, she at least flew in a couple of episodes and stuff. But here she doesn't. So mostly what she does in the second half is just her and Nico are kind of going at it. They're kind of on the rocks again and not really together anymore. Because Nico won't leave Morgan alone. And Carolina keeps telling her, she's evil, you don't need that. And then, she talks about how she saw her in a dark dimension and how she was all acting evil and stuff like that. And, she does fear the darkness inside her, but that's really about it. She mostly just helps the other runaways because mostly now is just Gert, Chase, and Carolina in the runaways because Alex is in the dark dimension. I'll get to Molly a little bit later. And Nico's too busy hanging around Morgan and stuff. Molly in this season, or the second half of the season, she meets a boy. For the first time, she has a love interest. Finally, in 3 seasons, she's finally had one. But she finds out what Leslie did to her parents. And she lights her eyes up and she goes to confront Leslie. Now, all this season, she's rarely used her powers. Her powers should be the easiest ones to use because she has super strength. But they rarely use them. She only used them a few times this season, but never to the extent she needs to use them. And so, she's literally about to, hurt Leslie, but Leslie gives her a speech talking about, hey, look, if you want to kill me, kill me. What I did was wrong, but she gives her this big, heartfelt speech, and Molly decides, look, just because I'm not going to kill you don't mean I'm going to forgive you. And Molly just leaves it there and never talks to Leslie again. After that, the whole Molly plot of this second half of the season goes in a completely different direction. Like I said before, she's no longer talking about being a superhero, and this boy lures her into a wizard where she meets Morgan, and she's put under a spell with the cell phones, and they do some kind of witch spell on her and they absorb her energy. Well, at least Morgan does, to be stronger because Molly has invulnerability along with super strength. At some point she attacked the runaways because of the whole cell phone thing, but this is when Jeffrey decides, when he finds out that Molly is captive, he decides he's going to get the rest of the parents to rescue Molly, in which they do. And so, for the most part, like I said before, they have improved on Molly, but she doesn't really do too much in the second half of the season. But she realizes the reason why Morgan took her is because she's strong. She doesn't need Gert protecting her and all this other stuff. And she's talking about, the stronger she is, she needs to be like a superhero. This is the only time she mentions it in the entirety of this season. Gert is still pissed at Chase, but she's starting to warm up to him. And so, but she has eyes for another guy named Maxwell because they are literally similar in every way possible. This makes Chase jealous. But then the whole Maxwell thing goes away when his mind is wiped. And Gert is under the control of Morgan with the cell phones, and she turns very aggressive towards that of Chase. Other than that, she's just there to try to stop Morgan, and she later does forgive Chase and everything. She doesn't really do too much until the final battle. She never uses old lace. I don't know why. There's always an excuse as to why she can't use old lace. When Chase is under Morgan's spell to bring her to the hostel, she injects Chase with the mind inhibitor and everything, and she is the one who traps Morgan, realizing that there's this magical saying that if you make a circle around a person with magic, it will confine their powers. She's smart enough to trick Morgan into going on this big speech about like feminism and how Morgan thinks she projects it, but she really doesn't. And the whole time she's walking around Morgan in a circle, releasing the stand out of like her hand that's concealed behind her back. After like that happens and stuff, Gert later passes out when Morgan is sent to the dark dimension, and it's because she got impaled in her back. See, before she put the sand down, Morgan pretty much just like blasted both her and Molly. Molly hit the wall, but she's invulnerable. But Gert hit a glass chandelier, and the glass stabbed her in the back, and she dies. This was really shocking, and Old Lace literally busts out the door because she had Old Lace trapped because she didn't want Old Lace going crazy and stuff. And Old Lace just like hollers and everything like that. Everybody is upset that Gert has died, and like what is it? Now, Gert does die in the comics, but much different. It's actually Jeffrey who throws a knife at like Gert's chest and everything. After this, she later forgave Chase because him and Nico made out in the comics. But then Chase becomes now the new controller of Old Lace, and they're now bonded in everything. This never happens in the show. Him and Old Lace are never bonded, but Gert does die nevertheless. So Nico takes up a lot of the second half of the season. It mostly revolves around her because Morgan wants her staff. She keeps being told over and over and over again that Morgan is bad, but she knows Morgan is the only person who's gonna release Alex from the dark dimension. She's the only person who knows how to get in and get out. So she's willing to just trust in like Morgan and stuff like that, until she realizes she can't trust her no more and she's too evil. This is when she gets the help from her parents to infiltrate Morgan and stuff like that, steal the Darkhold, and try to release Alex herself. I love the fact that Nico is so adamant about rescuing Alex, because you gotta remember, a couple of days in the dark dimension is months in the real world. So he's literally been there for a full year now. And I love the fact that she cares so much about him, because remember, they were an item in the comics until later they broke up and she went with Carolina. They played this off a little bit in the first season by having them be best friends until the whole Amy situation happened. He did not show up for the funeral, and the whole Amy situation is actually what caused her to be goth. She never used to dress that way before. And so when Alex didn't show up at the funeral, she kind of distanced herself from him. Then, of course, in the first season, they became friends again, and they came close to hooking up and being a couple, until he revealed he was the one who ratted Amy out by mistake, not knowing it would cost her her life. Because of that, she grew cold towards Alex for the remainder of the first season and all of the second season, to where in the second season they really do not interact with each other and they start dating other people. And that always bugged me how they never dated, because I didn't care if she hooked up with Carolina. I just wanted her to date Alex first in the first season, have them break up, and then get with Carolina in the second. But they didn't do that in the show. They went straight on for the whole Carolina Nico romance and stuff. So I love the fact that in the third season, even though her and Alex aren't dating and her and Carolina are on the rocks, they still show that she loves Alex to death, and that is her best friend and everything. And she's willing to do whatever it takes to bring him back. And so, when her dad gets the spell for her, she tries to go to the dark dimension. But the problem is, her and Carolina are on the extreme rocks. Carolina fears her dark side and fears that Morgan is just corrupting her and stuff like that. And there might not be no hope for Alex, because most likely he has either died in the dark dimension or like, his mind is completely lost. But she is so adamant about getting him out that she tries to do a spell. And she's really upset because like her dad died, and she goes to find her friends, but they've now been kidnapped by Jeffrey along with some of their parents. So she's in the hostel all by herself, and she tries to do a spell, but instead she summoned Cloak and Dagger from the Freeform series. I've already reviewed the entire crossover episode, so I'm not going to go into detail about that. But it's still cool because this is the first time ever that a streaming show and a broadcast cable show did a crossover together. And so Cloak and Dagger was one of those unique, different type of superhero shows that where try to take like a different take on the superhero genre and everything. And so when they crossed over, they helped the runaways, like, well, she helped Nico free like the runaways and the parents, and they all went to a dark dimension without the parents. Molly's not there because she's too busy hanging with that dude and too busy under control of Morgan. And so while in the dark dimension, I forgot to mention their powers don't work except for Nico. Now, this dark dimension is completely different from the one in Cloak and Dagger. It looks different, it acts different. In Cloak and Dagger, they're able to use their powers in the dark dimension. And the dark dimension is just a big void of black space. Here, it's the real world, just looks slightly different. And so Nico and Cloak and Dagger are the only ones who are able to use their magic. We find out what happened to AWOL in this. He basically serves Morgan in the dark dimension, him and the rest of the cops. And that is where Nico sent them, not knowing she sent them there. And so Alex is, I'll get to him a little bit later. So everybody's trying to stay like together this time instead of being separated. So, they're holding hands and this and that. And so like, Quentin tries to help them, the original owner of the hostel and everything, and he hates Morgan until he is completely taken over and he tries to kill them. So Dagger gives Nico one of her light daggers. When Nico catches it, the darkness consumes the dagger and turns it blackish purple. And she's able to use it to kill Quentin. She thinks she can use it to kill that of Morgan, since, it works on the same wavelength. After that, they rescue Alex. And when when Dagger touches his hand, the craziest thing happens. So Alex in the dark dimension is in prison, and he's being beaten nearly half to death by AWOL. He's been there for about a year, and his mind is being completely corrupted and stuff. And so, like, there's a fake reimagined Darius in there, and he's trying his best to get him to kill that of Catherine, a recreated version of Alex's mother. And she's trying to be as motherly, loving to him as possible, but the fake Darius gives Alex like a dagger that was crafted in the dark dimension, so it has some type of magical abilities, I guess, and he uses it to kill his mom. His mind is corrupted. When the runaways show up, they break him free of it and they rescue him. But when Dagger touches him, Dagger's ability when she touches people is to see inside their mind and see what a person's biggest hopes and desires are. And she was completely shocked and terrified when she saw Alex's deep desire. Alex's deep desire is to have all the powers and ability of the runaways. This is foreshadowing him being evil in the future, something that happens in the comics. In fact, this pose is ripped directly from the comic where he has all the runaways powers, because in the comics he does turn evil. I'm not sure why, but he's basically the Reed Richards of like the runaways, and as you all know, Mr. Fantastic himself turned evil and stuff. She tries to warn Nico, but Nico's all like, nah, that's my friend. Like, he'll never be that way and everything. Like, he's good, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, yeah, I could not believe they did this from the comic. This is so awesome. Sadly, however, with the low ratings and everything else going on, this would have been nice to have in the fourth season, but they tried to wrap it up as quickly as they could in the last episode. So in the ninth episode, like I said before, they battle Morgan, the parents, the kids, and everybody has a helping hand. It's not a huge magical battle. Nico pretty much it's a lot of tossing around. Like Morgan is tossing everybody around with telekinetic powers. She's blasting towards the runaways, where Carolina is able to like blast back and use like a force field and everything. Nico's trying to do some stuff, but getting her butt kicked. And so, like I said before, Gert does like the sand, and like Tina sends her back to the dark dimension. But Gert dies. I could not believe they killed Gert. Like, they had the balls to do that. And so, like, it turns out we see the future episode in episode 10. And every year they all gather around to, respect Gert, to pay tribute to her and everything. And it turns out that they do that for 3 years, right? But here's the craziest thing. First, in the year 2028, we see that of like a Chase. He's a little bit older. He's has some stubble hair, and he's been working on time travel. He's finally able to perfect it. We saw a little bit of this in the first season when he tried to contact his father from the future through that television and tried to warn his father of getting shot. But now he is able to time travel. The rule of the time travel here is completely different from the MCU. Here, you can only have 4 jumps. And here, whatever you change in the past will affect the future. There's no creating a new, alternate version of like a parallel Earth or nothing like that. It's old-fashioned time travel. So when he goes back to the year of either 2022 or 2023. I forget which one. Because the show ended in 2019. That was the original present day time. So it's probably 2022. And he goes back to that time and everything. And I'm like, why is he going back then and there? And why isn't he going back to when Gert dies? And the reason for that is because, man, a lot of stuff has changed now in the future. After Gert's death, Molly decides to join the dance squad at her school for her senior year. She's no longer talking about being a superhero, and she's all about dancing. Chase, a fully bearded version, is living in the hostel using wizard technology and trying to perfect time travel. He's now a hermit. He lives there with old Lace, and he's completely cleaned up the hostel and made it more girlish looking, I guess, to honor that of Gert or whatever. And so, he will not interact with nobody, and he will not talk to nobody. And Molly's trying to talk to him the best way possible, but he doesn't want to interact because he just wants to work on time travel. He is destined to get it complete. Alex and his father have started a business, and Alex is the head. And so, he's older, has a little bit goatee, hair's a bit more bushier and stuff. And, he doesn't appear to be evil whatsoever. Carolina is dating a new girl and everything, and they live together in a dorm or an apartment. I think an apartment and stuff. Her and Nico are finally broken up because Nico went away to a coven to learn more witchcraft and stuff, and to be away from everybody else. She's no longer goth, and she no longer uses the staff of one. She now does hand magic, and her magic colors are purple with a slight bit of orange. So when somebody asked her where the staff is, She literally says it's in a safe place, but she won't say where. Most likely it's probably inside her body and she no longer needs it out to use it. Because when she does her hand magic, she stops Alex from trying to shoot her. Alex has some type of future laser gun and shoots a beam directly at her, where she stops, cusses him out, and then Chase from the future, pretty much goes inside the house with her as Alex ran away. And it turns out that this Alex is not from the year 2022, but from the year 2028. And he is full on evil at this point. And the reason for him being evil is really, really stupid. So basically, Chase and the rest of the runaways, they all gather together. I don't, present day Chase, he's in the hostel, so he's not there. Gert, of course, is dead, so she's not there. But it's just like future Chase and the rest of the runaways with current day Alex. And so he has a huge scar on his neck, and they ask him how did he get it. He says Victor gave it to him, not his dad, but a different Victor. I thought he meant Dr. Doom, but no. I'll get to that a little bit later. And so, it turns out the reason why Alex is so evil in the future, eventually he just turns evil. They never truly say what really turned him evil, but he just turns evil. I guess because he was corrupted by the dark dimension and it finally took a hold of him. But the reason why he went back in time to kill everybody is because Chase needed, Alex, when he built his company, he used the abstract and not Victor, but Jonah's technology to help build it. Chase needed some of that alien tech to go back in time. And Alex, in the far future, somebody tried to blow him up. They put a bomb in his office and tried to blow him up. He automatically assumed it was one of the runaways and decided to go back in time to kill them all and everything. It's a stupid half-baked plan. There's no flash forward to see all this happening. It's just told to us. And it's one of the most half-baked things I've ever seen. And I don't like that. I wanted to see it. I wanted a better explanation other than him thinking, hey, somebody tried to blow me up. Must be my old friend. So let me go back in the past and kill them. I'm just kind of like, Alex... it's like what I've been saying. The dude's supposed to be so smart, but he does the dumbest things ever and stuff. Anyways, so it turns out that when Nico went away for 3 years, she never contacted nobody, which caused her and Carolina to break up. And so Alex has now jumped back in time. He went back to the pilot episode where the kids are about to discover that their family is evil, but he went back to high school when they don't have their powers, or at least they don't know about their powers, and is gonna kill them. So they all jump back in time using regular looking watches, no budget. Anyway, so they go back in time to stop him. So it's kind of cool to see them in their high school watching their younger selves. I don't even know if we've ever seen these scenes before or they're just made up. We see a very nerdy Alex from, when did the show come out? 2017 or something like that. And he plays the super nerd very well and very comedic. Nico doesn't want nothing to do with him because he didn't go to the funeral. And she's just sitting there listening to her music as loudly as possible. Chase is still back in love with Carolina and is being rude with his friends and stuff like that. His friends pick on Gert as she's trying to get people to go to this meeting to hear about feminism and stuff. And future Chase decides to defend her against his old friends. And when I say they was mean to her, boy, they was mean to her. Carolina is getting hazed by the rest of her students for being in that cult-like church and everything. And Molly's just being Molly. And so future Alex is literally trying to like kill them, but then they stop him and everything. And when they stop him, they had to send 2022 Alex back to like his present day, so the future one doesn't try to corrupt him. And so they all agree that like they need to go back and save Gert because that was Chase's original plan for time travel to prevent her from dying. And of course, in typical TV and movie fashion, they go back minutes before she dies instead of going back like a day. And more importantly, why didn't he just go back to the original pilot or stay in the original pilot and prevent the parents from doing what they're doing? This would have stopped everything. But of course, TV. So while they're there, he tells them they need to wait. So he can go talk to Gert and keep her like in one room, and they can't interact with their younger selves because it could screw things up. The battle pretty much happens the exact same way, except for Gert doesn't get tossed around. Instead, future Chase, who knocks his former version out and steals the fisticuffs and steals the sand, trying to blast Morgan, but to no prevail. Oh, I forgot to mention, in the battle, Alex took that dagger and killed one of the witches and stuff. Anyway, in the final battle, I also forgot to mention that the dagger that Nico uses does not hurt Morgan because she's super strong now because of Molly's powers. Anyways, we see future Alex try to betray his friends. They knock him out and everything. Why did they think they could trust this boy? I don't understand. Anyway. Chase is the one who puts the sand down but doesn't complete it, and Morgan kills him. And so he dies with glass going in the front of his chest instead of the back. But then he's able to complete the circle, and Nico's mom is able to send her back to the dark dimension. Everybody is still like, hiding because the future versions didn't even help the fight. They're just there waiting. What was the point of them going back? It's so stupid. Anyway. This is so rushed. And so like everybody is shocked and scared to see Chase like dead in Gert's arms and everything. But then the real Chase comes down all happy and jolly, talking about, did we win? Oh, I think we won. High five, everybody. And then all of a sudden, future Chase disappears. The timeline has now been changed. And so the future versions of the Runaways disappear and everything. And everybody is shocked and confused as to what the heck went on. So the series finale episode, while ambitious, it kind of falls a little flat because it's so confusing and stuff. And we never get to see the future events. We just keep constantly getting told of them and stuff. And like, there should have been more drama between the whole Nico leaving the group and never talking to nobody, and her interactions with like Carolina isn't all that big, and it should have been a two-parter, or it should have been an entire season, but of course they got it canceled. Even the big battle, which was all right with Morgan, wasn't that spectacular. They barely had the budget to use like CGI magic. I will say the people trying to come in from the dark dimension through the mirror looked excellent, and that's where some of the budget went to. But everybody should have used their powers more, and they didn't. It's like, that freaking budget, man, I swear. However, there is a huge Easter egg towards the end. So as everybody, so they defeated evil. They're all happy. They're in the hostel, and they're about to do something they haven't done in a long time. Just go out and have fun. You know what I'm saying? And as they're jumping around and smiling and everything, it was really cool to see Nico spin around in Alex's hand and everything, showing that she's so playful with him because that is her best friend and everything. But then when Alex forgot his wallet, he went through like, go get it. And he saw a note left by the 2028 version of Alex, the evil one. And there we get the huge Easter egg and everything. older evil Alex is trying to turn younger Alex evil. And in his instructions, he said infiltrate Wilder inventions or innovations. I don't got the computer in front of me, so I can't remember what the name of the company is. Why would he have to infiltrate it in the year 2019 if the company hasn't even been built yet? And he is the one who builds the company. I don't know. But anyway, the second is to hide I don't got the thing in front of me, so I forget the name. Manka, I think his name is. And then the last one is kill Nico. Because that's the first person he tried to kill in the year 2022. And so, like, he just really hates Nico. But this whole high Manka thing, like, who the heck is that? Well, I had no idea, so I had to look it up. That is who gave Chase his big scar on his neck in the future version. Victor Manka was the first Latina character to join the Runaways in the comics. But of course, in the show, they changed Molly's race and also that of Topher. So he would have been like the third on the show, whatever, for that group. But anyway, his father was evil and he joined the Runaways. He's a superhero in the comics. Who is his father? Ultron, of all people. Yes, Victor is a cyborg, but with organic technology. So it's like biometric, like organic metal and everything. And he's a cyborg. At some point in time in the year 2028 or so, in the show, him and Alex became friends, and he turned evil and everything and helped Alex do his evil stuff. This would have been so great to see. See, this was an Easter egg for the next season in case they got picked up. But the question is, they would have had to change his father and his powers because they could never use Ultron in this show because that's MCU property because of the second movie, the Avengers movie. And so this was a neat Easter egg, but only comic book fans knew this. I had to like literally look it up. And so like, I don't know why he would have to hide him for, but whatever, you know what I'm saying? So they would have turned that version evil in this show. It's too bad we never got to see the dude, you know what I'm saying? Like, that would have been just so awesome and stuff. But hey, it is what it is. And so, yeah, season 3, it's interesting. It's good for the stakes, and it's good for, like, the emotional connections that they get. But it was a season that was completely rushed and everything. It sucks so bad because they really should have spreaded this season out a bit more. I personally would have, like, either like wrap up the Jonah storyline very quickly in like the first episode, and then the rest of the season could have revolved around the Morgan thing. I really wanted to see more of them do witchcraft and stuff like that, but budget reasons and a rush script and everything. I still stand by that this is one of the best Marvel or comic book shows there is. And it's sad that people couldn't appreciate it back then when it was on. I mean, look at the crap we've been getting now with the MCU in terms of both movies and their Disney Plus shows. And even some of those CW Arrowverse shows were not that great. Yeah, they had better writing in terms of emotional stakes, but even their shows eventually got screwed up as time went on. And it's like, people did not appreciate what they had in the past, and I wish to God they did, because this was a really good show. It took its liberties, it changed source material. Sometimes the story dragged, sometimes it was sped up. But for the most part, all in all, it was a very entertaining comic book adaptation. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.